song or two this evening. So if you want to take your hymnal and turn to number 15, thought it would be interesting to sing My Maker and My King, since we're dealing with health and we are who we are because God has made us. Number 15, My Maker and My King. My Maker and my King, to thee my all I owe. Thy sovereign bounty is the spring whence all my blessings flow. Thy sovereign bounty is the spring whence all my blessings flow. The creature of thy hand, on thee alone I live. My God, thy benefits demand more praise than I can give. My God, thy benefits demand more praise than I can give. Lord, what can my part when all is thine before? Thy love demands a thankful heart, the gift, alas, how poor. Thy love demands a thankful heart, the gift, alas, how poor. Oh, let thy grace inspire my soul with strength divine. Let every word and each desire and all my days be thine. Let every word and each desire and all my days be thine. Our next song will be number 88. I sing the mighty power of God. He's the one that gives us life, direction. May we praise his name. Number 88, I sing the mighty power of God. I sing the mighty power of God that made the mountains rise, that spread the flowing seas abroad and built the lofty skies. I sing the wonders that ordained the sun to rule the day. The moon shines full at his command, and all the stars obey. I sing the goodness of the Lord that filled the earth with food. He formed the creatures with his word and then pronounced them good. Lord, how thy wonders are displayed where'er I turn my eye. If I survey the ground I tread, or gaze upon the sky, there's not a plant or flower below, but makes thy glories known. And clouds arise and tempests blow by order of thy throne. Creatures that borrowed life from thee are subject to thy care. There's not a place where we can flee, but God is present there. Pastor Hamper.
Okay, good evening, everyone. We want to welcome you to this seminar. Very excited to begin today. Today's our first evening. So it's called Live Life Well and Full. We're going to begin this evening's first lecture is going to be about how to reduce high blood pressure. Tomorrow, we will continue with how to reverse diabetes 2. On Saturday, we're going to continue with how to prevent cancer. And Sunday is going to be how to reduce weight naturally. Okay? So we're going to continue every night at 7 p.m. If you know anyone that you think that could benefit from these lectures, please invite them. I do want to give out a few gifts, but I do want to mention that for those friends that join us at least 3 nights, we're going to have a cookbook by Chef Mark Anthony. This has several recipes that you can learn from. We also have from Chef Mark Anthony a DVD. Maybe some people like DVDs instead of reading them. So, we have a few gifts that we want to give out. Today, I would like to give out we have I don't know how many of you like music, but I have here Alana Sullivan. Is that you? Awesome. Could you help? Oh. Sorry about that. Okay, so let me introduce the speaker, Ricky Perea. He has studied his medical studies education in the University of Florida. He has been working as a nurse practitioner since 2008, and we have the blessing to have him here in Franklin. He is currently working as a nurse practitioner here and digestive consultants. And I have been blessed by him because I've actually been his patient.
That's right.
So thank you so much, Ricky. Appreciate that. So I hope that his lectures can be a blessing for you. And I think I'm not the only one, right?
No.
That's right. So thank you, Ricky, for being with us. And please join us as we begin. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you, Pastor. Let me just make sure that all the bells and whistles are working with this thing. Oh, there it goes. Okay. All right. So today we're going to have a topic called heart to heart. Ever had a conversation with someone heart to heart? Have a deep conversation with someone. Hopefully we're not going to have husband, right? Wives, right? Kids. Had to have a heart to heart with one of my children today. They call it come to Jesus meeting. No. No, but we need to have a heart to heart, especially in regards to our health, right? What I really want to do today is try to help you understand the pathophysiology, or just in layman's terms, how in the world does this work, right? How in the world does this work? Because if I help you understand how this works, it makes such a huge difference when you think about what I can do for this. And in fact, when you learn how this works, when you learn how the body works, it's almost a no-brainer. You say to yourself, oh, that's a no-brainer. Obviously, I would need to do such and such to help prevent some of these things. So that's what I want to do today. We may not get into all the latest and greatest scientific research. We may touch on some of those things, but that's not my purpose here. I want you to understand how this thing works. And if I can help you understand just a little bit about how the body works, I think that would be such a benefit to you and to others. Because if you understand it, then that means you can help others understand. And I think that's a huge benefit because it saves me time in the office talking to patients about how this thing works if everybody already knows and understands how it does work, right? I'm trying to really understand what I want to do is get me out of business. Amen, right? You say, whoa, no, what kind of medical professional are you? Most of medical professionals just want to make money, right? Or have business. I really see it differently. I see it in a way where if a person has to come to me more and more and more and more, I'm not doing my job. Maybe we should get graded by how many times the patient visits us, right? Maybe it should be that way. Maybe we start charging, no, don't do that. Start charging your doctor for how many times he doesn't get it right, right? No, hopefully, don't get any bright ideas, okay? I still got to pay for my kids' food, right? But no, and seriously, in reality is that's what I want to do. I want to be able to help the individual understand how their body works so they don't have to come see me, right? If they don't see me, that means hopefully maybe I've done something right. Maybe they made that change so that they can prevent certain things from happening, okay? Just a little bit about myself. Yes, like the pastor said, I studied at the University of Puerto Rico, and then I went to do my master's at the University of Florida, so don't stone me if you're from Florida and you like the Seminoles. I am a Gator, I guess you can call it that way. Some people get in shock. Oh, no, I don't want to see that guy. But yeah, I studied at the University of Florida. After I studied there, I actually went on a lot of mission trips. And I saw all kinds of stuff in these mission trips. I mean, yes, I studied as a nurse practitioner, but at the same time, I got a little bit of everything in the mission field. Everything from a guy who had a bone sticking out of his hand. I was like, you waited all this line just to see about that? You should be in the hospital, right? But so we've seen all kinds of stuff. Now I work in the gastroenterology area, but it's not just that. You know, a lot of people come to me with abdominal pain, but there's so many other things that we do there because a lot of times people come to me with their problems. It could be emotional, could be other things that maybe other docs haven't listened to. So I get a little bit of everything. Just today, or just a couple weeks ago, I ordered an MRI on a leg. Say, wait a second. So we do a little bit of everything, right, Pastor? All right, so now, think about this. Imagine if a terrorist group created a biological weapon, right? And a person in the United States, let's put it that way, in the United States, a person started to die every 34 seconds. Right? That's pretty dramatic, right? And as this biological weapon starts being passed on from person to person, it starts killing 900,000 people on a yearly basis, right? All of a sudden, you would probably see this, right, in the newspaper, right? Yeah, automatically you'd see this in the newspaper. Bioweapon attack. Everybody's on the alert. Kind of sounds like COVID. Everybody, oh no, the 6 feet of separation again, right? Here we go, the closed shops. Of course, this would make the front page, right? It would be on the front page of the newspaper. It'd be all over the news, just kind of like COVID was, right? All over the news. And all of a sudden, everybody shuts down. The cities are shut down, and we got biohazard masks on, and we're roaming the streets trying to figure out how in the world the government and the team of scientists that they, conjured up together, and they're going out trying to figure out how to find a solution for this, right? Would you see that happening if every 34 seconds someone dies? Oh yeah, for sure, right? You're like, this is killing 900,000 people annually. We got to do something. Get all the bright minds. Let's see if we can figure this out, right? Of course, there is a killer out there, but it's not a biological weapon. And it kills more Americans every few years than all the world's wars, I should say, can't get that out, all the wars that we've had in the past, right? And you can't stop it in a lab. You just can't do that. You can't stop it in a lab. And you can, however, stop it at the grocery store. There is not an antibiotic for it. There's not a vaccine for it. There's not anything that you could do to take as far as, those kind of things to fight against it. But you can fight it with your fork. Kind of interesting, right? So what are we talking about here? Of course, the title kind of said it, heart to heart. We're talking about cardiovascular diseases, okay? Cardiovascular diseases. Now, the word cardiovascular, you got to think about that. Cardio meaning heart, vascular meaning veins, right? It's the entire vascular system that your body has. So this is an umbrella term. Cardiovascular disease is an umbrella term. It actually means heart and blood vessel disorders. Heart and blood vessels disorder. And it's not just one illness. Someone said, I have cardiovascular disease. Well, what kind, right? It could be multiple things that you're talking about when someone is saying, I've got cardiovascular disease, right? It affects literally the plumbing of your body. The plumbing of your body. That means your arteries and your veins. And they can manifest in different ways, right? They can manifest. When your plumbing is affected, when your heart's affected, when the veins and arteries are affected, that can affect just about everything. Because imagine everything that's connected to your blood vessels. Can you name one organ that's connected to your blood vessels? Heart. Okay, perfect. Perfect example. Your heart is part of the cardiovascular system, but it also has a blood supply, right? You said lungs, right? Lungs. You need blood supply to your lungs for them to work and for you to breathe, right? So everything is connected by these intricate highways called your arteries and veins, right? And you guys know that. You guys remember Anatomy 101 from class, right? It's been a long time, some people say. So when we think of heart disease or cardiovascular disease, one of the biggest things that we think about is coronary artery disease. Coronary artery. Coronary arteries obviously are the arteries that feed your heart. Your heart needs actually a good amount of blood supply to keep pumping. And so, what is one disease that you can think about when you think about coronary artery disease? What is one thing that could happen to someone when someone thinks about heart disease? Heart attacks, yes, heart attacks, right? The old-fashioned, in the movies, crushing pain in their chest, and they're sweating, they're diaphoretic, right? And they're having lots of crushing pain. Of course, those symptoms can be very different for different people, especially for females. I've had quite a few patients come to the office and they're like, man, I've got really bad heartburn, and it's not heartburn. It's actually could be, I have to think about those things. It could actually be a heart attack. And it can happen at any time. So we have to be very careful with this. And it's such a quick and rapid thing that could happen to you, then you don't even know that it's happening, right? All right. Now, I want to talk a little bit about this because coronary artery disease, of course, this is to your heart. But if you notice this picture, what do you notice about this picture that's kind of weird? It's all clogged up. That's right. It's all clogged up. That means the flow of blood to your heart, it's not going anywhere, right? You can't get blood flow to your heart, and there's a buildup of fats and cholesterol and something called a plaque, right? It's called a plaque. And it's covering the artery walls, right? And it could narrow that little space that you have for blood to flow, okay? And this is why people have heart caths. Have you heard of a heart cath? A heart cath is where they go in there and they light up these arteries to see if there's any narrowing in those arteries. Why? because any narrowing could cause a heart attack. Heart attack just means there's a lack of blood flow to the heart, where oxygen then is not making it to the heart, and when you don't have oxygen to an organ, the cells begin to die. Yeah, who said that? Quick, yeah. They die, right? They die. Now, this is another cardiovascular disease, and it's called stroke, right? You guys heard of the term stroke? Cerebrovascular disease is actually the medical term, but it's called a stroke. And if you look at the slides next to this image, you can see that they're pointing mostly to the carotid arteries. These are the arteries that go to your brain directly from the heart, right? And they go all the way up to your brain. If you ever had someone fall down to the ground, people say, check a pulse. What do? That's right. You check a pulse, right? When you're in the gym and you want to check your pulse, if you don't have these smartphones nowadays, you get your watch out and you go like this, right? Now everybody's just checking their phone now, but Or yeah, on the exercise machine, this will check my pulse, right? You got on the exercise machine, exactly right. All right, so what happens? So if you could see this is the pictures are leading to what could happen in a stroke. You have a nice patent artery, everything's flowing, everything looks good, right? And then you have this plaque buildup, cholesterol and fats building up in your arteries. And then what happens? No blood flow whatsoever. In fact, a blood clot starts forming. When blood stands still, it clots. It's naturally going to do that, right? Naturally. You prick your finger. I don't know if you've ever done this. I did this as a kid. I got cut, and I just look at it. Maybe it's the medical mind that I had. Maybe God just give me one of the... I just look at it, right? And it's bleeding, and it forms a little bubble of blood. Have you ever done that? Am I the only weird one here? Okay, I guess so. So I look at it, and it dries up, right? It forms a clot because it's still. It's just standing still. And this is what happens when we have this decrease in blood flow. All right, let's go to another disease, and we'll explain. Again, we're just looking at these, but the principle is going to be the same when we explain what's happening, okay? So each one of these cardiovascular diseases is basically the same idea, just different part of the body, okay? Now, what about this one, peripheral artery disease? All right, so same thing. You've heard of varicose veins, or maybe you've heard of claudication, or these terms, blood flow decreasing to the peripheral side of things. So usually mainly the legs. You've heard of edema, or when people get swollen feet, right? That means there's a lack of blood flow usually. Or it could mean that the heart is just not pumping enough to get to those places back down and back up against gravity. You know how powerful your heart has to be for blood to go down and to come right back up. It's got to be powerful, right? So we have to have a good heart in order to have good peripheral blood flow, okay? So the same idea, plaquing in the arteries that decreases blood flow down to the peripheries, right? So when you decrease blood flow to the legs, what do you think could happen? You can't walk. Exactly. It makes sense, right? If I don't have blood flow to my legs, what's going to happen if I start walking? I'm going to start having some pain, right? Just like a heart attack has pain in the heart or in the chest, I'm going to start having pain in my muscles down here, right? It just makes sense. So the idea is the same, all right? So if we look at this map here, this is the cardiovascular disease deaths. This is 2021 all over the world. The darker the color, the more. Okay, where are we? Oh, they probably have to put a new color. That's how bad it's getting. This is why it's so important to talk about these things, because here we are with all the sciences and all the medical science that we have and all the top scientists, and yet Out of all the countries we have here, it almost seems like we're one of the worst countries. What's going on, right? Of course, it is responsible for 18 to 20 million deaths annually. Annually. I don't know, how many deaths did we have over the entire world for COVID? I don't remember. I mean, it was such a long time ago. But it wasn't 20 million. That I don't remember it being 20 million that I remember. But I mean, imagine this. Here we are, 20 million people dying annually, and nobody says a thing, right? No newspaper announcement, no buzz on your phone, right? Like, alert, there's a cardiovascular disease alert. I don't know, right? There's nothing like that. All right, so let's look at a little bit of this in regards to the anatomy, okay? All right. Prevention really starts in understanding who the enemy is, all right? So what we're looking at right here is what's going on in an artery when over decades maybe, cholesterol and inflammation begin to block the flow. Okay, let's put it a little simpler, okay? First thing happens is cholesterol begins to build up in the area, all right? Cholesterol comes in, and this could happen over decades, right? Cholesterol starts to build up into the arteries. That makes the arteries quite narrow, right? Now, the problem is when blood tries to flow through that, how do you think it's going to flow through that? Is it going to be, it's going to be sluggish, but at the same time, remember, when you shrink something, anybody a plumber here? Or anybody do some plumbing? Yeah. So all of a sudden you go from a big hose to a smaller one, you're going to increase pressure. And what happens to the blood flow? It goes even quicker through there because there's more narrowed space. Do you understand that? As that's going, the blood has particles in it, right? Has particles in it. It's kind of like when you go to the beach and you roll around in the sand, all of a sudden a wave comes over and you got particles in your mouth. All these little, got dirt and everything, and you're feeling it. Nobody likes to go to the beach? All right, you get a mouthful of sand. Okay, imagine this, little particles, little sands, and they're rushing through. What do you think is going to happen to the lining of that vessel? It's going to get damaged. It's going to get these little micro tears, okay? Micro tears. Imagine it like this. Say I scratch my leg, right? And I scratch it, and I scratch it, and I scratch it, and I scratch it, and I scratch it. What do you think is going to happen to my leg? I'm going to have some tears, right? It's going to wear out. I'm going to have some inflammation. Would you say I've had? Yeah, it's going to turn red. It's going to be inflamed. Guess what happens inside your arteries? Same thing. These little micro tears start inflaming this. So what's going to happen now? It's going to get more and more narrow, right? As we see in the narrowed artery. So now the blood flow is reduced. And then because the blood flow is reduced, one of two things can happen. Either I get an injury to that artery and boom, a blood clot. Or just the flow, it starts going in, but it flows backwards. And now you have this sort of backwards flow, and then you get a blood clot. You see that? So it may not be completely obstructed yet, but simply because it's so narrow, the blood flow starts circulating within it, and it causes a clot. And a clot then obstructs the flow completely. Does that make sense? Okay, but here's some good news, okay? There's always good news. Always good news. The World Health Organization notes that 80% of these premature deaths can actually be avoided. Can actually be avoided just by using simple modifications. Simple modifications. And we're going to go discuss that here in a little bit. All right, so the blood acts as the body's essential transport for everything. Everything. Just think about the blood cell right now. Actually, it looks pretty nice. It has this sort of almost bowl shape, right? Do you know why your blood is red? Oxygen. But there's another element involved. Why is it that reddish, almost like dark red, orangey kind of color? What do you think that is? You said oxygen, that's one element, obviously. Iron, that's right, iron. Your body or your blood cells carry iron in it. Anybody see iron rust? Yeah. When my kids leave the tools outside. Oh, you're familiar with that. When they leave the tools outside, all of a sudden my wrench doesn't work because it's all rusted. And what color is that? Almost like a reddish, and you can see brownish. Yeah, brownish. Do you see that? So that's called oxidation. So our red blood cells carry iron in it. And when iron has a high affinity to oxygen, when it goes into the lungs, it'll grab oxygen like it's nothing, like it's no tomorrow. It just picks it up, and all of a sudden, boom, right? It oxidizes the iron because iron's holding on to it. And this is what carries the oxygen to the rest of the body. You need oxygen for the body to make energy. Everything in your body needs oxygen to survive. Your cells will not survive without oxygen. This is a beautiful thing. If anybody says this was evolution, this is, man, just look at a one red blood cell and you can say God does exist, because there's no way that just came together thousands of years. I mean, what would blood do without iron? Wouldn't do anything. You wouldn't breathe. And here you are waiting thousands of years. I gotta breathe. You know? It's not gonna happen, right? I read in a book one time that was written about 150 years ago. It says, perfect health requires perfect circulation. Why? Because blood brings nutrients, white blood cells to fight infection. It brings oxygen. It brings all kinds of wonderful things so that the body can restore itself. That's the miracle of blood. In fact, the Bible even says it, right? Life is in the blood, right? Now, I want to talk a little bit about non-modifiable risk factors, okay? Anybody above 40? You don't have to raise your hand on those questions, okay? Because I'm above 42. Okay, as you age, obviously, this can be a non-modifiable risk factor, okay? Sorry, guys, we're all just getting older, okay? We're all just getting older, so this could be a risk factor for cardiovascular disease. We can't change that, unfortunately. Maybe when Jesus comes, it will be changed, right? But right now, we can't change that. Genetics, right? We have family members that have cardiovascular disease, and we may get the same. Of course, race or ethnicity, and sex, of course, or what gender, sex, males or females, right? I want to tell you a little story. Even though this could be you, like you have all the genetics and all your family history, it doesn't have to be you, okay? My dad had a heart attack at the age of 26. You think, what in the world? He's 26, he's the prime of his life. Why would he have a heart attack, right? Of course, he was living a life like crazy, right? He was 26 in college, partying, smoking, he had a heart attack, right? Then 10 years ago, he had a cardiac arrest. So he survived the heart attack, and then 10 years ago, he would have been maybe 65, I think, maybe a little bit older. He had a cardiac arrest, right? Dropped on the floor. Anybody see the show Rescue 911? Yeah, this should have been on Rescue 911 because he dropped on the floor. He was up in a tower somewhere, airport control tower, doing the specs because he was the engineer. And just so happened that a off-duty fireman who was the security guard that night found him on the floor. He was just so happened to walk up and see my dad on the floor, started doing CPR, and got my dad back, right? Miracle, right? Rescue 911. Ever heard of that show? That should have been on that Rescue 911 because he survived it. He survived, right? So I have, even though I have the genetics, right? Because my father had all these things. The genetics, that doesn't mean that I have to suffer with these things, because maybe I have some non-modifiable risk factors, but there is much more modifiable things that I can work on. But my genetics means that I have to work on it a little bit harder than you. You may have to walk like this, and I have to jog. Okay? So they're just things I have to work on, right? All right. Now let's talk a little bit about blood pressure. Anybody here have issues with blood pressure? Yeah, okay. That's okay. That's what we're learning, right? We want to be able to combat this issue. Now, ideally, who knows the ideal blood pressure? What is the ideal blood pressure? 120/80. You know, it's just, they're random numbers. What does this mean, though, right? Why is this doctor telling me my blood pressure is too high, or hey, it's 120/80, whatever? The top number is the pressure within those arteries and veins, specifically the brachial artery, the one they're putting pressure on. The top number is when your heart beats, right? When you go poof, that's a lot of pressure. That's a pump, right? Poof. That's the pressure, that's the top number. The bottom number is when your heart relaxes. The pressure that is within that artery when your heart goes poof. So you get doo, 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 right? So that's easy to remember, right? I mean, it's so easy, right? So you don't have to go to the medical field to figure this out, okay? All right. But blood pressure is also known as the silent killer because you don't know if it's high or low. Mine's probably pretty high right now. Because I'm doing this. Measure my blood pressure, probably 130 or something. Who knows? But I need it right now. What do I need? Because I'm using my brain a lot to think of what I'm going to say next. And my brain needs blood flow, right? So I need it. I'm also walking around. As you can see, I'm getting nervous, right? I'm walking around, so I'm going back and forth. So what else needs blood flow? My legs. So my pressure is going to go a little bit higher probably when I'm speaking. But this is the idea. When your pressure in your arteries gets high, those little micro lacerations that happen in the arteries start happening more and more and more. Does that make sense? So that's why it's a silent killer. One, you don't feel it sometimes. Some people feel dizziness. Some people feel a little off. Maybe they have chest pain. But a lot of times, you're running around with 140, 150 systolic blood pressure, the top number, and you don't even know that it's happening. But imagine all those little particles in your blood being compressed into that pressure going through the arteries. Do you see that? That's why it's so dangerous. That's why it's so dangerous. That's why we need a little bit more control. All right, I got something for you guys. Give me 1 second, okay? Okay, all of you guys in the splash zone, be careful. All right, someone turn this on for me. No, I'm teasing. Okay, so this is an easy way to demonstrate to you pressure, right? Normal garden hose. How many have dealt with these? All the time, right? As a kid, my mom would tell me, stop playing with the hose, right? We're wasting water, just squirting and everything, you know? Okay, so what do I need to bring pressure to the hose? Water. Exactly. So I go turn on the water. Let me go turn it on. No. Okay, I need pressure. I need water, all right? When I turn on the water, right, I can turn it on a little bit. I can turn it on a lot. If I turn it on a little bit, water goes pee, right? I can't even do my tomatoes, right? Can't even do anything, you know? I turn it on more, and all of a sudden the water starts rushing out, right? More pressure. So volume or water, the volume increases pressure. Everybody understand that? More volume equals more pressure. Okay, now as little kids, we'd like to do this. right? Who's done that? Stick your finger in the hose, right? Why? Because if I stuck my finger in this hose, I can almost reach David over there at the last pew, right? Because that's what I want to do. I want to squirt him with water, right? That's how you increase pressure. You narrow the space and pressure increases. Now, the other thing with this garden hose, right? If I had a short garden hose, same amount of water, what happens? I don't need a whole lot of pressure to get to the end of the hose, right? But if I had a long garden hose, I'm going to need how much? More pressure, right? If I had a distance to cover, I need more pressure so the water can go from one end to the other. Make sense? All right, so now you got the basics of blood pressure. This is the basics. This is so easy, right? Everybody has used one of these, so everybody knows how pressure works. Let me take care of this thing here. Okay, so that's the garden hose experiment. Now, think about this, right? Obesity and hypertension. What does that have to do with increasing blood pressure? Obesity and hypertension. And what do pipes and obesity have to do with high blood pressure? Now, do you see this gentleman's abdomen? How far does it go? It goes a little bit farther, right? Most people. That means I need to create more pipes to go a further distance. You see that? So the bigger the person is, the more pipes they have, or the more pipes that are stretched out, the more pressure your body needs to get to those pipes. Does that make sense? The longer the pipe, the more pressure you need. So the body is constantly saying, okay, where does blood need to go? It needs to go out, right? So I need to increase the pressure. Your body automatically does that so that it could reach the furthest distance, right? The more we get this way, the more pressure has to go to those ends. Okay? Is that easy to understand? Pretty easy to understand, right? Okay. Now, think about this. What then can we do to reduce pressure? Lose the weight. Okay, so for every 2.2 pounds lost is equal to 1 point drop in blood pressure. You think, wow, that's not a whole lot. But imagine, just think about this. 2 pounds, 1 point. And some of us, all we need to do is lose 5 pounds or 10 pounds, and we got 5 points off. That could be a difference between whether you use a medication or don't. And I know what I want to do. I don't want to use any medication. That's me. So it makes a huge difference, or it can make a huge difference, right? 20 pounds, 10 points. 10 points off your blood pressure. That's the difference between 130 and 120, 140, 150. So that's a huge difference when it comes to pressure in these things. All right, now let's talk about this. Cholesterol, right? Cholesterol. Everybody knows cholesterol. Anybody hear the term bad, good cholesterol? Bad and good cholesterol. Everybody heard that tone? Okay. Let me tell you this, bad and good cholesterol. They use the terms HDL, or high density lipoproteins, as your good cholesterol, and LDL, or low density lipoproteins, as your bad cholesterol. In reality, let me tell you a little secret. It's not really cholesterol. HDL and LDL are transporters of your cholesterol. They're the ones that pick it up and take it somewhere. So your high-density lipoproteins, yes, they have fats in it, but they're transporters, really, in all honesty, that's what they are. So HDL, LDL, think of them as your transporters. So HDL is considered your good cholesterol, and I'll tell you why here in just a little bit. But LDL is considered your bad cholesterol. Why? Because of this. All right. So your LDL is like your garbage truck, right? It picks up this cholesterol, picks up this fat, and where does it put it? It puts it right into your arteries, like a dump truck. Backs up, and just dumps it right into your arteries. It's crazy. So this is why it's considered your bad cholesterol, because it dumps it right into the arteries where you don't need it. It clogs them up. This is your LDL. All right. Your HDL, the wonderful news is it's your cleanup crew. It's the one that comes in and takes all that fat and cholesterol and processes it through your liver. And guess what? You make hormones. Anybody on menopause? Okay. All right. So you need HDL. All right. Because you know how that is. I mean, hot flashes and all this other things. And of course, men, you want testosterone. I mean, I don't know if I want testosterone. Testosterone just, helps you build muscle, helps you stay active, those kind of things. So you make, with cholesterol, hormones. You make bile. Anybody like digesting food? Well, guess what? You need cholesterol, which is from bile, to be able to digest food. Okay, now, it's not necessarily cholesterol's evil. Your body needs it. However, excess LDL, the bad cholesterol, or the bad transporter of cholesterol, I should say, acts like trash being spilled into your arteries, okay? HDL acts like the street sweeper, cleans it all up. Where do we find this cholesterol? These are foods that are high in cholesterol, highly processed, and usually in the form of an animal product. Animal products are going to have cholesterol. There is no cholesterol in these foods. There may be some good fats, but there's no cholesterol. Okay? So, these foods are minimally processed, right? They're high in fiber and absolutely no cholesterol. So if you want to do something just to at least lower your cholesterol, the best thing you could do is just eat more of this stuff, right? And eat a variety of it. It doesn't have to be the same old thing all the time. And of course, you want to eat less of this, right? Now you say, well, that's more tasty. Well, there's an option, right? There's an option. The thing is, it could be slowly decreasing your blood flow, okay? Now, let's talk about fiber, right? How many like fiber? People say, oh, fiber tastes like cardboard, right? No, fiber is everything in these foods has fiber in it. So this stuff tastes good. I'm not talking about the little orange drink you get at the store and you start mixing it and you drink that. That's not what I'm talking about. If you want fiber, get some of this stuff. Now, of course, if the person doesn't have an adequate amount of fiber in it, maybe they might need a supplement, right? But why not enjoy it? Why do you have to take a drink every day, right? All right, now, what does fiber do? Real quick, because I know we're running a little bit out of time. Real quick, all fiber does, remember, cholesterol is found also in bile. Now, bile comes from your liver and gallbladder, and it acts to digest fats. So bile, when you get more fiber in, the fiber absorbs that bile. And guess what? You flush it down the toilet. When you don't have a high fiber diet, the bile, which has cholesterol in it, goes right back into the system. Do you see that? And then you digest more cholesterol, and that goes into the system. It's a vicious cycle, okay? You don't want that. You want to be able to put in enough fiber so that all that fiber absorbs the bile, and you flush that cholesterol down the toilet, okay? Not going back into your arteries and veins. You don't want that, okay? And fiber helps too, because the more fiber you have, you don't have an eye-popping experience in the bathroom anymore. Right? Because now you're going regularly and things are flowing and cholesterol is being released, right? Now, I want to talk a little bit about these fats, okay? Unsaturated fats, saturated fats, trans fats. Let's make it simple, right? Unsaturated fats are usually fats that are liquid at room temperature. They usually improve your cholesterol levels, okay? These foods, usually from a plant-based, right? They're plant-based, unsaturated fats, usually improve cholesterol levels. That means they actually drop it. They actually help you reduce cholesterol. Now you have saturated fats. Now saturated fats is fat that is actually solid at room temperature. I remember, and I won't say the place, as a kid at 16 years old, I was working at a restaurant, or actually say a fast food place, and I remember the stuff we used to put in that fryer, I guess it's called. We used to dump that stuff and it would be like clumps, right? It would be so hard to dump that stuff in there because it was so thick. The moment we've hit the heat on it to 300 degrees, it became a liquid. And as I was working there, I thought to myself, but my temperature in my body is 98 degrees. What's going to happen when it goes from 300 degrees to 98 degrees? It's going to go back to a clump, right? Do you see what happens? We don't want this type of fat. We don't want this saturated fat because it actually raises that LDL. You know, the fat, the cholesterol that dumps it into your veins, right? And so it raises that. So high fat meats, butters, cheese, whole milk, those kind of things will actually raise your LDL. Now, trans fats. Trans fats are actually the most harmful. What they've done is they've taken an unsaturated fat and they hydrolyze it, or they put something in it, partially hydrogenated. They put hydrogen in it, and it makes it so bad for your heart. It raises bad cholesterol and lowers the good one. So this is terrible for you because the good one actually cleans it up. The bad one makes it higher, and the good one makes it lower. So these hydrogenated oils are so bad for you, I wouldn't touch them with a 10-foot pole, right? So, what are we going to do? Well, I guess this isn't working anymore. All right, here we go. So what we need is a whole foods, plant-based diet. It's really what we need. If you want good heart health, this is the type of foods we need to include. It's so easy. It's modifiable, right? It's just sticking on the outside instead of in the grocery store, instead of in the inside, right? Because you want to get those whole foods. All right. Plant-based diets reduce heart disease risk by 40%. This is a study that was done by Dr. Cadwell Esselstyn, which is, if you guys know this guy is famous for writing the China study. He would take patients that nobody wanted. He would take patients that cardiologists said, sorry, you're going to have to live this way. We can't do anything for you. He would take those patients. He would put them on a plant-based diet, okay? And you can see the narrowing of the disease artery in this slide. After about 6 months to a year on a plant-based diet, whole foods plant-based diet, look at that artery now. Do you see the difference? A lot of people say it's not reversible. It is reversible. You can actually clean up your blood vessels with a plant-based diet. Now, so we talked about the plugging in, right? That cholesterol buildup. Now let's talk about the salt, right? So what happens with that hose? I need to increase pressure. I need to increase volume, right? I need to add more water. What do you think salt does? It does exactly that. It adds the volume. So the more salt we ingest, the higher the pressure. It says that if you already have heart disease, you probably shouldn't go beyond 1,500 milligrams of salt. And for some of us that don't have heart disease, probably it's better that we stay like in the 2,000 range, 2,300. But guess what? All of our favorite foods. All of our favorite foods. I mean, come on. All of our favorite foods are high sodium foods. They're processed. The cheeses, the pickles, and the cans. we want to be able to enjoy life, but at the same time, we have to consider some of the things that we're eating, okay? All right, I'm going to go quickly now. The best pill that we can take for this is exercise. Truly it is. Exercise is the best pill. Sometimes I talk to my patients and I say, hey, I got a pill for you. It reduces heart disease. It reduces diabetes. It gets your weight down and da-da-da. And then immediately they say, where can I get it? And I said, it's the exercise pill. Because I don't want that. I said, well, this is the only thing that does everything, right? It does everything. Why does it do this? Now, when you exercise, you're actually strengthening your heart. What that does is causes your heart to be stronger and more powerful. So your heart doesn't have to beat as fast. The lower the heart rate, the lower the pressure. Do you see that? The lower the pressure. This is amazing. It does all of this. Not only that, but exercise actually increases that HDL, the street sweeper, the one that cleans everything up. So if you want your HDL to go high or higher, guess what? You have to start implementing exercise in your regimen. Now, I'm not talking about this, the FIFA World Cup type of exercises that you do. No. Okay, you can do a brisk walk. You can do it 10 minutes after breakfast, 10 minutes after lunch, 10 minutes after dinner, and you've got 30 minutes right there. And you only really have to do it 5 days a week. And that's it. Well, that's simple enough, right? But I also want to mention that it's not just this kind of walking. Now, that may be all you can do. Good. Do it. Okay? Do it. Don't get discouraged. Do it. Because the more you start walking, you're going to start walking a little bit faster, right? Because you're exercising, you're getting those muscles ready. So what you want to do is do a brisk walking. That means it's going to be hard for you to talk or sing while you're walking. So if it's getting hard for you to talk and sing while you're walking, you've reached the point where this is a good moderate exercise or moderate intensity, okay? So that's what you want to do. Let's break it down, 30 minutes, 5 days a week. Very much achievable. Let's say you only have 3 days a week to do it. Well, do it. All it has to do is just get started. Get started with something. One of the things that I have challenges with is I have to sit down at work. And sitting is the new smoking. Sitting is the new smoking. You have to get up every hour. You literally do. I have to remind myself to get up out of the computer screen every hour. If not, this is going to increase. Actually, you can go exercise in the morning and sit for 8 hours, and it will do. It actually went backwards. Like, it's more damaging. You could do all the exercise, but if you sit 8 hours, you just kind of made that null and void. That's it. So you have to get up. You have to start moving around. Smoking, how does this impact? So a modifiable risk factor? Well, stop smoking, right? What does this do? Smoking actually, every time you take a cigarette, every time you puff that cigarette, you're actually, for 20 minutes after that cigarette, your blood vessels go from this nice and wide and patent to this. It shrinks it. Do you see that? So that's why a lot of smokers suffer with high cholesterol. They suffer with a lot of plaquing, heart attacks, stroke, all those things, simply because every cigarette they smoke, their blood vessels do this. Imagine just 5 cigarettes. That's 100 minutes during the day where your blood vessels are this and tiny. Your blood pressure is skyrocketing. Imagine the chain smokers, right? Chain smokers. Like, your blood vessels are like this all the time. The only time it's not like that is when you're sleeping, right? So, but look at this. There's hope of this. What happens when you quit smoking? 20 minutes, heart rate and blood pressure levels return to normal. Just after 20 minutes. After that 20 minutes. After 8 hours, carbon monoxide starts to leave the body and oxygen levels return to normal. We want oxygen, right? 24 hours, mucus and debris caused by smoking begin to clear out. That's why when some people quit smoking, the first thing they do is start coughing, right? Because all of a sudden the debris and the mucus wants to come out. And then they say, oh, I get sicker when I stop smoking. No, you don't get sicker. It's just everything's trying to get out. All right, 48 hours, nicotine is no longer in the body. And senses actually improve 2 to 12 weeks. Breathing improves and exercise becomes easier. 3 to 9 months. Coughing and breathing problems reduce as lungs repair themselves. Risk of coronary artery disease now drops by 50% after just 1 year. Wow. That sounds good to me, right? 5 years, of course, you have cancer risk come down. 10 years risk of dying from lung cancer now dramatically drops. 15 years after stopping smoking, your risk of heart disease becomes the same as if you had never smoked. How many want that? Praise the Lord, right? All right, coffee. Oh boy, here comes the bricks and the, right? People love their coffee, right? And I know I'm going to get a stoning after this, I'm sure. Increased caffeine increases cortisol levels and stress hormones, right? What happens? The moment you drink that cup of coffee, right, all of a sudden you go into fight or flight mode, right? Fight or flight mode. You go, right, I got all this energy. I got to go, right? But that's an unnatural thing. Your stress hormones are raising up. What does that do? All of a sudden, your blood pressure rises. Now think about this. There's a dog. Sorry. Okay, there's a dog. Okay, let's say you're walking in the park, right? Doing my exercise like Ricky said, and all of a sudden you see a dog in front of you, right? What happens? Your fight or flight mode starts increasing, right? Boom. All of a sudden you start, why do you do that? Why does that stress hormone, that cortisol level rise? You need it. Why? Because cortisol levels does a wonderful thing. You got the dog in front of you, what's the first thing you think about? Run! Run! Get out of here, right? Run! Okay, so you run. Well, what do you need in order to run? Energy. Okay, so you get energy probably from the glucose stored in your liver. You get energy from food in your stomach, so acid has to go into your stomach to break that down. You also need blood flow, right? Blood flow. What do you need in order to have good blood flow? What does your pressure do? Right? If you're going to have to run with these legs down here, you're going to need pressure to go down there, right? So imagine that though now, without the dog, and now a cup of coffee. You're doing that every single time you drink a cup of coffee. You're inducing that fight or flight response. So what is it doing? It's creating this environment of cortisol levels going high, and you're like, yeah, I got energy, go. But now your blood pressure's through the roof, right? That's what I tell people all the time. When they come into the office early morning, their blood pressures are always high because they just had a cup of coffee, right? You don't want this. This is how stress increases your blood pressure. The nice thing about stress too, if you're just to give you an idea of when you're running away from the dog, is that short-term memory also kicks in. And so short-term memory means I remember there was a tree back there I can run up to, right? There's all these things. Inflammation goes down, so my joints don't hurt as you start running. Like, Ernie was having a hard time getting up. Well, if a dog was chasing him, he wouldn't have a hard time getting up. Because all of a sudden the inflammation will go out of his body and he'd be like, woo, okay, let's go. And then by the time he sits down, he's like, ow, right? But inflammation goes down from that high level of cortisol. Okay, I hope I have time. Okay, let's try to go quickly now. Okay, alcohol and heart disease. Okay, I know a lot of studies have said, alcohol is good for the heart, but did you know that the American Heart Association says if you have a heart disease, you should not start drinking because it produces arrhythmias like AFib. It produces all kinds of issues for the body, okay? I'm not going to go into detail just for the sake of time, but you should not start an alcohol regimen simply because you have heart disease. In fact, it's the opposite. You should not start an alcohol regimen. Well, some people say, hey, what about that resveratrol, that stuff that's in grape juice, right? The stuff that's in grapes that helps with heart disease? Guess what? Just eat grapes, okay? You eat grapes, you won't get cirrhosis, right? All right? So just eat the grapes. Forget the alcohol. You don't want all that stuff. The cancers that come from alcohol, prostate cancer, esophageal cancer. You got other types of cancers, stomach cancer from alcohol. You got cirrhosis. You got trouble in the home. You got all the. Why do you want all that trouble? Just eat some grapes, right? What's the worst thing that can happen with grapes, right? You bite on a grape and all of a sudden all that juice goes in the back of your throat. You start coughing. That's the worst that can happen, right? So eat the grapes. You know what the cool thing is that I found out? You know what really has a lot of resveratrol, that stuff that helps your heart? Boiled peanuts. I would have never thought about that. We got people selling boiled peanuts all over the place here. I mean, that boiled peanuts of it, all the things, has one of the highest content of resveratrol. And of course, you have to boil it with the shell, which is kind of nice. But when you boil it, it actually infuses it with that resveratrol. Pretty interesting. Okay, improving your heart health through sleep. Obviously, when you sleep, the heart slows down. It actually starts repairing itself for the next day. Your arteries start repairing themselves. So you need some good sleep, especially before the hours of midnight. Especially if you can do it before the hours of 10 o'clock. So that way you get a nice sound sleep throughout the night. And I know a lot of people suffer with certain sleep apnea and those kind of things. So that's what we're going to try to do. Try to do the best you can to get that good night's rest, because that's the way your heart starts repairing, right? Starts repairing itself. Now, I just want to, if there is any further testing that you want to do, blood tests, of course, your cholesterol levels, if you want to do an EKG, talk to your doctor about this. EKG, stress tests, coronary calcium scan. This is like a low CT scan that checks actually how much calcium buildup is in your arteries. Kind of a neat scan. It's a kind of a new thing. But these are some of the things you can do just to kind of get an idea. Where am I at? First thing you want to do, get some blood tests. Get some cholesterol levels, some lipid panels, that kind of stuff. See where you're at. And when you see those numbers, you're like, I'm going to go exercise, right? Because if you don't know what's going on, then you're not usually likely wanting to go do anything, right? But if you know there's something going on, you can start modifying everything, okay? Now, let's be honest. Preventing heart disease isn't about massive disruptive changes all at once, okay? It's little things you can do every day. Little choices you can make every day about what you eat, how you exercise, what you're going to do. It's about small steps, meaning I'm going to eat the apple instead of the French fries, okay? Maybe I'm going to walk after supper instead of sitting down and watching the news, which is nothing really good on the news right now, right? You might as well walk. In fact, if you watch the news, now your cortisol levels rise and your blood pressure's up. So you might as well walk instead, right? So maybe it's going to bed early instead of searching the web, right? Remember, your heart works for you every single second of the day. We need to return the favor. Is that right? We need to return the favor. It works for us every single second of the day. But there is one choice you can make today that will improve a lot more than just your blood pressure. You can choose today to give your heart to Christ. That'll improve. Giving your heart to Christ, I'm going to be honest with you. Giving your heart to Christ definitely will lower your blood pressure. Why? Man, you'll have so much peace. And that's invaluable. Invaluable. I mean, giving your heart to Christ, and you know what the wonderful news is? In Ezekiel, it says, a new heart will I give you. Anybody want a new heart? I want a new heart. And he could do it physically, and he could do it, of course, spiritually. He could do that physically too. God wants to give you a new heart. How many of you guys want a new heart? Oh man, I want a new heart. I want a new heart. Let's take care of the one we have right now. And don't forget to give the one you have to Christ. And you will have so much peace. Okay? All right. God bless you guys. Pastor, maybe you can end with us.
Okay. How many of us learned something today?
Amen.
I know I need more fiber. I'm happy that I do like to do exercise, so that's awesome. Remember that tomorrow's presentation is, anybody remember? How to reverse. diabetes 2. All right. So if you know anyone that has diabetes, tomorrow we should try to bring them. Amen. All right. So let's have a short prayer and then we'll be dismissed. Father in heaven, thank you for this opportunity that we have to learn these things. We're so thankful for Ricky and his time. Continue to bless him and his ministry, his job. And as we return home, help us to think about these things. It's wonderful to know that there's a lot of things that we can do to improve our health. Help us to have that desire to make changes so that our own body can benefit. And as we think about tomorrow, we know that we might know someone that has issues with diabetes too. Help us to bring them, that they can be motivated to learn so that they can also benefit. So give us your blessing as we return home. In Jesus' name, amen.